Hello, Monotype. Today is the day that I will finally show you my steel team. Now, quick update before we continue is come to my attention that I have never done ground on this series. And after reviewing my videos, I have found that that is in fact true. So, in the next video, this was supposed to be the last Monotype hard mode, but I will instead do a two-parter for this one. Since I actually have a team that I've used to do pretty decently well in the ladder with in the past, that is also happens to be a ground team, and also happens to not be particularly meta. So I will just do a double video here, just knock two things out at once. But yeah, so first we have the steel team that doesn't have Heatran. I decided to use Empoleon over Heatran and not use any other S-rank mons, just to keep going with tradition. And this team is fairly standard, I would say. It's a hazard stack balanced team with Fortress and Skarmory stacking the hazards. Empoleon just using its Surf knockoff flip turn set with Roost and competitive, especially defensive as well, with heavy duty boots to reduce the amount of chip it takes, which is very good for all the spikes going around in this metagame. Iron Treads, we decided to go for a Choice Scarf set instead of a more bulky set. Caesar is also here as well, with a Trailblaze Sword Stance set that allows it to become a very scary sweeper if it gets going. And Iron Crown opted to do choice specs instead of the weakness policy set, so that it could use Volt Switch and very easily pivot around with all the other Pokemon. He also opted for Whirlwind instead of Iron Defense on Skarmory, mainly due to the fact that Whirlwind works well with Hazard Stack, and it also helps phase out stuff like Volcarona and not let it get out of control. Especially if there are no Stealth Rocks on the field, then Skarmory can use its Sturdy and just get it out of the field. And getting Volcarona out of the field once is usually good enough. But yes, that is a brief explanation of this team. And I only have a singular replay, but it isn't really the greatest replay ever, because the battle ends very quickly, and I don't really get to show off all the Pokemon I use, but here we go anyway. So this is against a 1400s player, and I lead with Fortress into his team that lacks hazard removal. So I'm just like, oh, I can just get a lot of hazards off. He does unfortunately knock off my Rocky Helmet immediately, which means that Mr. Shifu does not take damage from my Rocky Helmet. So we send in Skarmory, who has Rocky Helmet, and he decides to retreat. We put on Stealth Rocks, and now we got a lot of hazards on his side of the field. We send Fortress back out, takes the knockoff, and takes very little damage from it. We get the last layer of spikes off, and we sack Fortress as a result. Fortress did a good job, and it wouldn't be that useful for the rest of this match anyway with the HP it was at. So we send out Caesar, immediately get him with the Trailblaze. Caesar is now +1. I decided to switch out here because I thought Ogre Palm would use something a little more scary, but looking back at the replay, I think I actually could have stayed in there. We put in Skarmory though. Skarmory is Rocky Helmet, and that thing is not Punching Glove, so it does take the chip damage. I roost up, and just like that, the match is over. Now, could this guy have won if he kept playing? Very unlikely, because Caesar kind of just messes up his entire team. And Skarmory could just spam Whirlwind. Anytime that Toxapex comes in, it just gets chip damage against all of its other Pokemon. So yeah, this was a very bad matchup for him. But I played it pretty decently, and my sets were definitely a bit ideal for this type of team. But yeah, that's unfortunately the only replay I have, because I had a bunch of minor update for myself. I've had a lot of stuff going on IRL. Nothing bad or concerning. Videos should still be fine, but just know that I've been busy with like stuff in the background. But don't worry, I'll still be able to release videos at least once a week. So, And sorry for this video being late. This video is late because of the stuff that was going on. But yeah, it's just normal stuff. It's fine. But yeah, that is it for the Steel team. I know we went through that really fast, but that's because this ground team I'm talking about is going to take a bit for me. So let's go into my folder, and I think I have the ground team here. No, I do not. Here is the ground team I'm talking about. So this ground team is a stall ground team, which I know may seem unusual, especially for a type like ground, because usually on ground you run something like sand or sandless offense. It's never usually this slow, but I decided, because I really liked Payless Sand, I decided that I would use a ground team that tried to utilize this to the best of its ability. So the set I have on it is Sand Tomb, Curse, with Shore and Scorching Sands. Now this set is honestly, it looks better on paper than it does in action, because in action this set doesn't really do as well as I would like, but because Payless Sand is still like a ghost type on ground, it still gets very good use with just Scorching Sands and Shore Up. But yes, this set mainly is like meant to target very fat, weaker attackers. So stuff like Fortress, stuff like Toxapex. Even with Toxic, this thing still does 1v1 it, so just knocking stuff out like that, this thing is very good at. Unfortunately, Water Compaction still doesn't give a water immunity, so yeah, it's gonna be rough for that. But yeah, this set is pretty decent. Physically defensive as well, to try and take as many physical water hits as possible. Good for taking flip turns as well. We have Clodsire with Water Absorb, and we have Quagsire with Unaware. Quagsire sets rocks. Clodsire, I believe this is an older version of the team. I think the current version of the team has spikes instead of low kick. But yeah, and this thing also has a specially defensive EV spread, because we needed something that could switch into ice beams very well, and this was the only thing that could do it. Also, we just needed something that could deal with ice in general, and also a rapid spinner, so this thing just did everything I needed. And Dugtrio. So you might be thinking that Dugtrio on a stall team is very insane, because this is a Pokemon that's typically used on offensive teams. But here's the thing. Dugtrio, even though Focus Sash is very hard to use these days with all the hazards lying around, if you are able to get Dugtrio into a specific target, it's very good at checking some of the scariest Pokemon that this metagame has. So, for example, Fire Ogerpon is something that greatly threatens this type, because it hits Iron Treads very hard, and it hits the rest of my Pokemon really hard, and it takes neutral damage from Earthquake. So it's very hard for this team to take care of, but Dugtrio is able to come in after it probably knocks something out, but it's able to come in, click Stone Edge or Earthquake, and then click Sucker Punch the next turn. Or Earthquake or Stone Edge again, depending on if it used Trailblaze or not. But the point of the matter is, it is always able to 2-hit KO that thing with its Focus Sash. So, and because it's trapped, it can't leave. And Ogerpon, as far as I'm aware, I think it does have U-turn, but most Ogerpon sets don't use that. The only Ogerpon sets that use that, I believe, are the Mono Grass Ogerpon that uses it on a Choice Scarf set, which that Pokemon gets dealt with by Gliscor, so they're not that big of an issue. But yes, this Pokemon also deals with Steel types as well, so stuff like Arculodon, well, not Arculodon specifically, but it deals with the offensive Steel types like Bisharp, for example, formerly King Gambit, but that thing's gone. And yeah, it just traps very scary threats to the team, and then once they're gone, they don't have their wall breaker that's supposed to destroy this team. So now with the remaining 5 Pokemon I have, or 4, I can outstall the rest of his team, because Gliscor is incredibly good at just blocking out or just toxic stalling a majority of the metagame, especially with this EV spread. The main thing that stops this thing from soloing entire teams is missing Toxic, frankly, but yeah. The Toxic Stall set is incredibly good, especially paired with the fact that it has a bunch of teammates that are able to support it. This guy is kind of the main carry of the team, so if this guy dies, the rest of the team kind of falls apart, but that's just stall in general, right? Now, the biggest problem with this version of the team was that this guy just gets worn down way too easily, and this guy felt a bit too passive, and I was just very confused on what to use for the last move slot on this guy, so I ended up making another iteration of this team, which is this one with a defensive Garchomp set instead of the Dugtrio. The Dugtrio was doing fine, but unfortunately I needed to replace it so that I could fit spikes on this guy. But yes, I ended up going for this on our Garchomp, defensive set on Garchomp, focused on just phasing stuff out. So stuff like Volcarona, stuff like the aforementioned Ogerpon Hearthflame, those Pokemon can get checked by this Pokemon, although I think I do need to tune the EV spread so it does that job a bit better, because as is, it doesn't really, it kind of just is fast, and it doesn't need to be that fast, so, especially since it already gets outsped by Ogerpon, so there's really no need for that. But yeah, that is the other iteration of this team, and this guy has spikes instead. This guy still has the Sand Tomb set, but I'm thinking in the future that I will probably replace that. And this is currently, oh no, this isn't the stall team actually, this is a different team entirely, but there's this one that I did to pass the Altruism challenge for Monotype, which is a part of the Monotype forums if you want to check that out. But yeah, this team used Torterra, interestingly enough, and this team does get really messed up by Fire Ogerpon as well, but I kind of just had to take the L against that mana when it came to this team. But Torterra is actually surprisingly decent with this set. It's actually able to take a decent chunk of physical hits, and with Leech Seed and Synthesis, it actually acts as a decent wall. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Sorry that this video felt rushed and stuff. It's kind of an unceremonious end to the Monotype Hard Mode series, but we are moving on to a new chapter. So, to signify what I will be doing next after this series is finished, I will be doing, I'll just be doing type reviews after this. So just generally like talking about how every type feels in the metagame, what the biggest problems are, what could possibly like be fixed, what couldn't be fixed, like do unbans need to be done, stuff like that. By the way, most likely there will not be any unbans, but I will like humor the thought and like talk about what an unban could do. Like a Spathra for Psychic, for example, that's something I'm willing to talk about, but yeah. I'll just be doing type discussions, and they'll probably be uploaded once a week, just like these videos were. Once again, I apologize for this video coming out late, but it's better late than never. And yeah, I will see you guys next time when I talk about a random type. Not sure which type I'm gonna do yet, but probably gonna end up being fighting. But yeah, I'll see you guys then. Take care.